One of the things people are anxious about is the Middle East. And
yes.
by Middle East, I don't mean Edenvale, Benoni and Boxburg.
No.
I'm talking about, Gaddafi country and so on and so forth.
Yes.
What's your read on it?
Well, he's a bit of a lily-livered hotelier, really. He's not big on no-fly zones, but he's not bad on property in Sandton, apparently. He's quite big on buying legacy group hotels.
That fantastic Libyan investment company, which sounds like his petty cash box,
Just a small £70 billion of sterling, which he uses to buy up lovely hotel rooms.
But I can't believe the guy has folded already. I mean, at first sign of an American Predator drone on the horizon, he's out.
It's over. He's not a lousy poker player, and that's not often what happens when you wear a dress.
And I know this is going to be like all happening all the time, but
yes.
I mean, would you imagine that the African Union would really send Jacob Zuma into Libya at a time like this?
No, they're sending body doubles. He has many. He calls them children, but they're many, many body doubles. He has up to 22 at any one time traveling around the world. And there's a good chance that a Libyan body double for Muammar Gaddafi could meet a Zuma body double, and we could end up having a summit of no one involved.
Oh, awesome.
Which could be quite strange.
Speaking of Jacob Zuma, I mean, something that stood out for me this week was that, unemployment remains a major concern. The president is giving this a lot of attention on the local agenda.
A big announcement. He's taken huge action on unemployment. He's made a very decisive phone call to the Gupta family and said, employ my fiancée immediately, which they've done graciously.
That's nice of them.
Yes, now they're allowed to land their helicopter anywhere they like, whether it's Zoo Lake or wherever it is.
Helicopter, I like that. It's
yes.
got a good ring to it.
Well, I try.
Okay, now in terms of the situation, apart from the Middle Eastern problem, we've got the situation in Japan.
Japan worsening. 51
Is it really worsening? I thought it was getting better.
No. They're recalling 51,000 motor cars, Honda, Civic and Odyssey, I believe, because of faulty rods. And I think that's quite good, because we're all afraid of Japanese rods being faulty right now. And if they don't fix Fukushima, I think it's called
salty
Daiichi.
rods or faulty rods?
Well, both. If your salty rods are faulty, we may all have to change our rods if it goes wrong.
But apparently the US State Department has said that anybody within 500,000 kilometers of Tokyo should evacuate immediately.
Yes, which is roughly the circumference of the Earth. So
exactly.
It's a bit of a
so I mean,
difficult.
We should all be getting into the spaceship now and leaving for Mars.
And leaving, we can't though, because petrol prices, although oil did plunge earlier today with the no-flight zone. We could make it to Mars on the current oil price.
Okay, talking local news from the sublime to the ridiculous, I noticed that Playboy is launching again in South Africa, not for the first time, but the second time.
And they also pulled a Muammar last time there was trouble and just folded quietly. But it seems to be a good time. If you're a high-living lowlife, it's a bad time for you. Berlusconi's just been indicted. But if you're a low-living high-lifer and you're in Benoni, you're on the cover of Playboy.
But I've seen the cover of Playboy, and I must tell you, it's quite impressive. There's someone I think called Tanya McGregor who's hanging on the front.
Right.
She's got no top on, which is quite.
Which is big on Playboy. That's the whole basis.
That would work for certain people. And it turns out that then there's this white background, and then on the right-hand side it says articles by David Bullard and Steve Hoffmeyer.
Wow.
So now I got to thinking, who do you think the target market of this production is?
Well, fans of bollocks, clearly, which is quite exciting.
I mean, if they're trying to target the Steve Hoffmeyer and David Bullard demographic, then, tired, sad, dirty little old men would probably be what they're targeting the production at. Perfect.
I think Bullard is good because he's full of it, and Hoffmeyer is good because he knows how to distribute it once you get it out of yourself. So I think it's a good partnership.
Do you reckon it's going to be a successful production, successful publication?
It's a magazine with boobies. I think it's probably going to go well. Would you like to see a magazine with Tanya McGregor without her top off on the front? Probably not. So,
but I think they should be taking it onto the iPad, because, that's the device of the future.
Now that's interesting. I was reading that the quake has slowed down the manufacture of parts for iPad 2 in Japan.
Damn.
So it may slow down the launch, and I think men want their boobies now. They don't want a lag because of the quake. So, I think it's good that we keep it away from iPad for the moment. That's my feeling.
And I think this is part of the Avusa group that's doing this. I can't remember anymore. In the magazine world in this country, there are only about 3 people that own everything, and they all hate each other's guts, and they all have rival titles.
And secretly, they're all owned by the same people anyway.
And they all, if they aren't owned by the same people, then they're printed by the same people.
Aren't Avusa the people who had a publishing war against themselves without realizing it for about 4 years until they realized there was a shareholder situation? They actually were fighting themselves.
The management team there, Speaking of management teams, what do you make of the fact that Cyril Ramaphosa's team has bought into McDonald's seems like an exciting transaction.
It's a very interesting transaction. I think it's the first time they've ever bought so many shares in a drive-through. But I think it's quite nice, and I think it's important that if you're a fat cat, you have ready access to fast food to make a quick buck. And I think on that as well, it's high time that African men put big bucks into burgers, because beef is very last year.
What's your favorite new menu item? So far, I've seen that they're going to bring out something called the Mac Cyril, which is not that funny.
Okay.
I was thinking perhaps a good one if they changed the name of that chicken thing that they sell to the Cyril McNugget. You know, it's got a nice ring to it, insofar as there's like a gold thing. You know?
And then when they give you the nuggets, it says 8 on the cover, but they only give you 6 and a note promising you 2 in the future, paid off in increments, which I thought was quite handy.
And of course, those things are made of unspeakable substances. But I must say, I'm a massive fan of McDonald's.
Yes,
and in fact, in our investment portfolios, we own McDonald's shares, because, you know, if you can't beat them, then you should join them.
And you're loving it, I bet.
Yes,
exactly.
Know,
it's a wonderful
Dividends
idea.
are flowing in the aisles.
McDonald's is lovely. You know why they give it in the box?
Yeah.
Why they put never mind. That's not going to make any sense to anyone whatsoever. Never mind that.
But Cyril has obviously got great plans here, because to pay 200 million rand for the master franchise is fabulous. But they are probably going to have to expand mightily to justify that kind of investment. Are we going to see a McDonald's on every corner?
Well, I thought there was, but I think you may be right. There might be new corners. In fact, they may start new corners. You know, the 5th corner, that's always the one that everybody wants. On every block, there's an opportunity for a 5th corner. And I think if anyone's going to find it, he might find it, because, you know, the government cuts corners, and then they must sell them somewhere. So I imagine he'll be picking up 5th corners all over the place.
I went to a stand-up routine once in New York where somebody said, you know, as they do, as you do.
They do say it, those things.
You know, you in the front row, where are you from? And then you say, well, I'm from South Africa. And the guy said, well, I went there once. Where do you live? On Main Street, next to the McDonald's? Good line,
exactly.
Because there's one in every country.
There's one everywhere.
Okay, so now we've had a chat about this and that, but if I could just turn to more serious matters.
Right.
What's your sense of the future of mankind?
Well,
because, you know, just to intro it a little, I'm regarded in the market circumstances circles as an extreme optimist.
Right.
You know, like an extreme sports person.
Are you unnecessarily happy?
I'm unnecessarily happy all the time. And even when, you know, 10,000 people are being washed into the South China Sea, it's like, well, you know, things are about to get better.
Oh, you see the upside?
Always.
Is that your thing?
Right.
Right.
I mean, that's fine, and it's fine as far as it goes with regard to long-term equity portfolios. My wife finds it slightly irritating.
Right.
But do you have the same view simply because you're dealing with the business of laughter?
I think we will be doomed. But back to your discussion about Playboys, we will always have silicon breasts. Even when we are gone, they will be all over the place, just lying where they are. So men will always have breasts. I don't think that's terrible. I think the mines may have just run out of rock while they were chipping away. And that's why the calendar ended, not because of some magical end-of-the-world formula.
So you're still positive that by the end of 2012, the Mayans won't be right, and that we will live on into 2013 and beyond?
Or we could get so greedy that we will mine everything out of the earth and it will collapse on itself. But that won't be a mine thing. That's more sort of a NASDAQ, Nikkei, Dicky, Dow Jones, whatever that's called thing. It's important. And I have no idea of what the stocks are, but what I've really become happy about is that no one really does, because it's imaginary money. And so to hear men speak with great confidence about something which doesn't really exist in the first place. My daughter's got an imaginary friend, and even she knows if I press her, the friend's not really there. So it's only when we just go, you know what, the money's not really there. Oh, look, a meltdown, which I find quite amusing.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. So I'm going to thank you, John, for coming on. I think we should do this again soon.
Thank you. I'll wear long pants next time.
No, I'm going to wear short pants.
I was just from a buyout, so I've got nothing left.